Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Divo Knives Pony Stout Premium, or Premium Pony Stout, however you want to say that. In S90V and titanium exclusive to White Mountain Knives. Now, at the time of this recording, this might not be available, but I very much doubt this is the last we're going to see of this. This is an absolutely excellent value at $175, considering the materials used. The OEM is QSP, and they did a great job. I'm very familiar with the Stout already through Divo Knives, but this one in particular I think is pretty special, and I'm gonna go over it. Thanks so much to Divo Knives for sending it in. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex and on TikTok at _metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. It's been a while since I've actually checked out the last version of the Scout that I checked out, so I want to get specs on this one in particular. Overall length of the Premium Pony Stout coming in at 6.7, not quite 6.75. Blade length is coming in about 2.85. Cutting edge is coming in at about 2.75 inches. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. So up against the 8010 and the 8020.5, you can see here it's on the smaller side. Because of the nice open ergonomic profile, it doesn't feel like a teeny tiny knife, but it is going to look that way. As far as the cutting edge goes, it's actually almost identical to the Demco 8020.5. You just have a much shorter handle. Let's go ahead and put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. Once again, closer to the size of the Para 3 with actually identical cutting edge. Again, just a shorter handle. And then finally, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. So, how is the action on this knife? It's good. It's exactly what you'd expect it to be. You have beautiful access to the liner here. There's some teeth on there, makes it look like it's going to be, aggressive to the touch. But no, this is carved out so low that you only engage with the side of it. The edge of it, while it is a very thin steel lock bar, by the way, you don't really engage at the top of it. It's just the side. Runs on bearings as far as I know. I think we can actually kind of peek in there and take a look. Sometimes these are really, really hard to see, but I believe I saw on White Mountain Knives page it was bearings. But the action, the pivot action, nice and smooth. A little bit of encouragement after that detent ball is engaging with the face, but if you move that over, it's just going to fall right down to your fingernail, which is great. Thumb engagement on the show side, great. The reverse flick, doing it like this, great. Really, really easy to manipulate. And while it is on the smaller side, the positioning of this hole, just the placement of everything, how much room I have on the height or width of the handle, it actually feels pretty organic. A lot of times my issue with smaller knives is things are placed as if the thing was much larger, and since your hand is used to something that is medium or larger in my experience, having the same or similar placement, right, relative to the larger one means that your hand interacts with the object in a very awkward way, sometimes unsafe, makes you feel like you're going to throw it. Now with this guy, this actually is super easy to manipulate and very comfy, very cozy, very organic. So really like the action there. And the detent I also think is really, really nice. Real clicky, nice. Actually, I would say heavy for this size of knife, but not heavy in general. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. You can see here it is a little bit thinner than the Para 3, but these scales are contoured, which is really nice. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. This is not a difficult object to carry. It does get tall-ish in places, but the whole time I was carrying it, which was just about a day and a half, never really felt, it didn't feel a whole lot different than a lot of the other knives that I carry. In fact, I would call this definitely on the more compact size. Obviously, it's smaller. But even with it being full titanium, there was no part of this that felt cumbersome in any way. Let's go ahead and weigh it. What are we looking at for materials? The blade is a nice, slightly reflective tumbled finish with an S90V blade. I got to talk about this. So I was wrong about something. I never knew this. I think it was under the unboxing for this video. For the longest time, for years, I've maintained that a a medium, like a polish like this. There are certainly tumbled finishes that are going to cost more, but this is like your pretty standard tumbled finish. I have maintained that this finish is more expensive to do than both machine and belt satin finish. I was wrong about that, and I learned about this here. I stood my ground so hard on this, and then I was corrected. So, a machine satin finish in the most basic sense is going to be the same or less than the cost of something like this, a basic tumbled finish with kind of a medium reflectivity. A belt satin finish is actually going to cost somewhere around $20, $25 more. If you compare this to the tumbled finish that like Spyderco does on the Paysan, that's a much higher polish finish. Is going to be much more expensive to do. So while there are finishes that are going to cost more money, my original thoughts on a tumbled finish like this being more expensive is not exactly right. It turns out it's quite a bit cheaper to do than I thought, but it's still my preference. So I'll move forward having corrected myself on that, or not corrected myself. I'll move forward with the correction that was provided to me by Divo and some people in the comments. But if you're ever curious, that's the case, actually, is that the tumbled finish is not nearly as expensive to do as I thought. But anyways, we have a really nice tumbled finish. This actually is a really, really nice finish. QSP does a great job with this. Looks really good. And then we have S90V titanium scales, and then on this side we have a nested steel liner lock. You have a steel wire clip and a titanium backspacer. So the weight on this guy, no additional internal milling. But the weight on this guy is going to come in at 3.5 ounces, which is not bad at all. Not absolutely perfect ratios, but with the balance being back from the pivot, but right in the middle of this like primary index finger position. So it doesn't feel too bad. It's a little tiny bit heavy, but at 3.5 ounces, that's just not really that big of a deal to me. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. We have a T8 pivot, and oh, they're T8. Okay, that's cool. T8 screws. We have one big T8 for the pocket clip, which is, of course, reversible. That's really nice. Super simple construction. As long as you have the right tools for the job, should be good to go. Let's go ahead real quick and measure the blade stock thickness, which I don't believe to be anything super crazy. I bet you that's about 115 to 120. And that is correct. 115 or so thousandths. Nice and thin. Okay, let's go ahead and move into the meat and potatoes. There are little teeny tiny nitpicks here. Like, I don't love the wire clip and I don't love the straightforward bill. But it's really hard to be ultra critical about stuff like that, even though like a lot of times, people could say that's really subjective. Some people like those. I maintain that there are better clip designs, but little things like that, I'm probably going to gloss over a little bit more because the value on this thing is just really, really good. So, I don't know. It's kind of like I want people to know that that's not my favorite clip, but like I can't say that that's a huge deal when this is so much less expensive than the competition. Even when the competition is hitting that $200 mark. Like if somebody says, hey, just I'm not going to go into too much detail, but premium Chinese production knife, titanium scales, S90V blade. What's the price? I'm going to say $200. Like if it's on the cheaper side. Like that's where I like to see it. That's the competitive end, Lots of companies like Migron and Artisan Cutlery hitting that mark. This guy comes in $25 less. Yeah, it's a little bit smaller, but it's not like a micro knife or anything like that. It's still a fairly substantial, there's still a fairly substantial amount of material here, and it's also contoured. Really nice. This little area right here, these horizontal lines actually do provide a little bit of meaningful traction. So if you're going to hold the knife like this and do it, this is one of the hand positions that I find myself holding a knife like this in, right? Cutting packages, depending on the best way to approach the material. So that's kind of neat that they did that. And at the same time, added a little tiny bit of sauce to an otherwise plain Jane scale. The finish on the scale is good. In fact, the fit and finish all the way around is very, very good. Ergonomically, in the standard grip, not my favorite. I can feel most of that clip, but it's not too bad because it is kind of radius. It's like a paper clip, right? I have my my pinky finger, my fourth. I have 5 fingers. If we don't count my thumb, my pinky is my fourth finger, was how my brain decided to say that. It's falling off the end here. Most of the time, I'm probably going to hold it. Like if I hold it in a hammer grip, I'm just going to deal with this little bump right here, which is not even that big of a deal because it's pretty rounded off. I'm going to make it to where my hand doesn't have the pinky falling off the edge. But if you're going to grip it like this in 3-finger, fine. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but it's not bad at all. Choked up, it's actually pretty darn good. This is really comfortable. This has no guard. It just turns into edge, so you have to be cognizant about where your hand is. I feel like with this size of knife, depending on who you are, I guess, not a whole lot of things you're going to be doing. Like if you do some detail work, right, or if you're trying to shape a stick or a piece of wood, then maybe, right? You just need to be really, really aware. Most of the time, I'm probably not going to hold the knife like this. I'm going to hold it like this or like this, right? Or I might do something like this or like this. Probably, not going to be my number one. Like I'm going to go out and break down cardboard boxes or cut up like heavy rubber or something. But if you did do that, it's fully capable. You just need to be aware of where your hands are. This edge right here, as far as I can tell, is hollow ground. Sometimes I have trouble with that, but that does definitely feel hollow ground to me and pretty darn thin. I like, in terms of, utility, like day to day when we have I don't know if I want to call this. I guess it's sheep's foot is the best way to describe this. But it looks like a toucan bill, right? Just with a little bit of belly. Whew, that is sharp. Just got a little bit of dead skin there. But being able to do draw and shaping cuts, I love that. So these are fantastic, daily common task utility blades. Aesthetically, I'll always prefer a drop point blade, and those two sides of my brain are constantly at war, So you just choose, I guess, the blade that works best for you and is best for, the tasks you feel like you might run into. This is a pretty good all-purpose, like pretty much everything you could expect to do with a knife if you're just an average Joe, right? This is the kind of knife that's really, really great. But because it's an S90V and it's hollow ground, you have an edge that's going to be able to tackle tasks like that for a very long time before it even needs to be touched up. It's really, really great. And you have quite a bit of cutting edge here for how small it is. Nice flat, runs out to about 85% the length of the blade. We have the little swedge up top, very, Divo blade shape. It's gotten to the point where that's just kind of who I associate with that blade shape there. Pocket clip mounting positions for both right and left-handed people, which is great because even though this is a right-handed liner lock, it's very easy to manipulate with the left hand. I am right-handed. You can see here I have no issue manipulating this the same way. Very, very simple. We already kind of talked about the clip. I think it's a little bit long for the length of the handle, but that's just me. I wish that it just ended right here and didn't have this extra bill, but what are you going to do? And again, that's a silly thing to complain about, because the clip is fine. It works. It's deep carry. So it's not necessarily a bad clip design. You have the stops attached to the blade and running on little channels on the inside of the titanium, so that's nice. No blade play, up, down, left to right, no lock stick, no pivot lash, very smooth, very consistent in here, and a nice clicky detent with perfect centering. There needs to be more of these. This is a great knife, excellent EDC knife, especially considering it's $175. Legitimately, the only thing that I can complain about with this knife is the pocket clip is not my favorite style. But who cares? It's fine. $175, man. I wish some more companies could hit this mark. I cannot believe S90V, largely considered to be the most premium, consistent production composition, right? Are there steels that can hold an edge longer? Yes. Are there more expensive compositions? Yes. Do we see them nearly as hot? No, not even close to S90. We see S90V all over the place. That's amazing. S90V is an incredible steel. I remember thinking like, man, I'm never even going to get my hands on them. Like over 10 years ago, I was thinking I'll never get my hands on something that's made out of S90V. That's like unicorn stuff. Now it's all over the place, and that's great because it's a really, really good composition. I love that we can get it under 200. I'm flabbergasted you can get it on something that's made this well with a titanium frame, for $175. The issue here is that it's so popular that it's gone. So hopefully, White Mountain Knives decides to do more. Divo decides to do more. Anything you guys can do, with these materials in S90V and hit that 175 mark, that's really great. I feel like this probably, it was obviously popular enough to sell out, but I think there are many, many more people out there who would love to pick something like this up for that same amount of money, right? This is the type of knife that, people who are super intimidated by, paying over $100 for a knife, this is the type of knife where they can do it and feel comfortable because they really are getting like absolutely excellent value here. This is extreme. So pretty cool stuff. I would love to see Divo do an 8. Do they do a larger, like an 8.25 or 8.5 inch version? I would love to see that. You guys have this, kind of medium EDC size knife or medium small ADC size knife down. If you don't do a larger one, that would be really cool. I wouldn't be surprised at all to find out that they do, and I'm just not paying attention. But I do like the overall profile. I think it's really great. So very, very recommendable knife. It's definitely going to go on my most recommended knives playlist. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex and on TikTok at _metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.